Boom. I like how the screen said boom before I started recording too, because that's some shit that I say. What's up, y'all? It's Mase Blanco on 610 from G's to Millions. I don't need clout the podcast, man. It's good to fucking be here. Man, that's an understatement. It's good to be here. That's an understatement. Shit, man. Today's episode is 22. Title is Where the Hell You Been At? So I'm going to just address, man, what's been going on in my life, man. This shit's been a lot since y'all heard from me, so I'm gonna just dive right into it. So the last podcast episode that I did was a full year ago, and I'm talking about like a full more than 365 days ago, like a long time, which is like the biggest break that I gave y'all from hearing my voice. So, and whether that be music, whether that be podcasts, you know what I'm saying, I just was off the grid. So it's only right that I make a comeback and tell y'all what's been going on in my life. To backtrack, the last episode that y'all heard from me was in January 2024. So the beginning of last year. And ironic, I say ironic because it's going to come full circle, but ironically, the last podcast episode was about the things that I was doing leading up to the new year that I was applying in my life so that I could have the best possible 2024 going into the new year. And what I do, and I talked about it on that video too, but what I do is I don't start on January 1st. I start mid-November, right around my birthday. I start working on all of the shit that I'm trying to do to improve myself, like my new goals for the next year. I start reflecting and taking action steps like a month and a half before we even get there. So when you start like a month and a half early, I got some motion, I got momentum on my side. And you know, momentum is huge, whether it's like good momentum or bad momentum. Like that's like what dictates how things go. You know what I'm saying? So I was moving in the right direction. I was getting results. I could see like real tangible results too, like the shit that I was working on. And the reason that I said it's ironic was because I really had to go back to that episode. Like before I got myself to this point, I had to go back to that episode and I had to take my own advice. And it's some deep shit, man, when you got to sit back and like take your own advice, you know, because it's easier to like analyze what other people have going on and be able to dish out advice and things like that. But I made this podcast really like with the intention of sharing like a unique opinion that wasn't influenced by money and outside things and like peer pressure and like norms, like cultural norms and things like that. So I really had to dive deep into this like self-improvement type of shit, and I had to take my own advice. So I was on the right track. Y'all following me so far. I was on the right track. I was doing everything that I could possibly do, that I could think of to put myself in a better situation. But then the most like unexpected, hurtful, traumatizing, unimaginable, worst possible outcome, that something my brain couldn't even process at the time. It happened to us. Y'all that know me closely knew that my wife was pregnant and we were expecting a child in February 2024. You know, I went in with the best intentions of having the best year of my life, but it quickly turned into the worst year of my life by far, because when she went to deliver, our son actually passed away during labor. And that was something that really just set me into like a shock. Like I wasn't even in my mind, like never thought that something like that could happen. You know what I mean? I just went into shock. And that's really like the only way that I could put it. Like that was my reaction, was just shock. Like it's so many things that you can control in your life and decisions that you can make and action steps you can take to try to control your own narrative. You know what I mean? Your own experiences, your own outcomes, but stuff that happens that's like completely unpredictable. Man, like traumatic events, they just put you in a whole nother place. So what did I do from there? I was like, went from being on the right track at the time, doing everything within my power to try to do things the right way. And then I just get put into this shock, you know what I'm saying? And I was just like mentally paralyzed. That's the only way I could put it. I was mentally paralyzed for months on end. Like I was grieving. I didn't have time to grieve properly. You know what I'm saying? I wasn't recording no music, wasn't doing no podcast. Y'all didn't hear from me for like over a year. I wasn't taking no pictures. I wasn't really trying to come out the house. You know, I didn't want to hang out with friends and family. I just had to take some time to heal. And I'm somebody like, I know isolation isn't really the best like medicine for going through traumatic experiences, but I would rather be alone, bro. Cause like, man, people would try to like relate to me or like, not only just relate, like people would try to be there for you, bro, but like they don't know how, you know what I mean? And sometimes like that could just make it worse, because then people trying to be there for you and they feel like they're doing something good, but really it's pretty much just making things worse. And there's 5 stages of grief, you know, so they say, which is denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and then acceptance. And I don't disagree with that at all. I mean, everybody's path isn't linear. Like you don't just go through 1 through 5 as far as grief. You know what I mean? There's so many emotions like within those 5 like core steps. It's so many emotions that you would feel like when you go through a traumatic event. But yeah, I mean, some people really had some good words to say, man. And I think the words like helped me the most. It was like the people that wanted to be there for me, like physically, like I really didn't want that. You know what I mean? I really didn't want like unsolicited advice, things like that. I did go to a couple therapy sessions, bro, but like honestly, I found it more helpful to talk to people that I knew personally, that I had good relationships with, rather than trying to like build with a stranger. And I did have a good therapist, like there's just a couple sessions that I went to. I wouldn't even say anything bad about it, but I just don't really think it was as helpful, you know, as just talking to people that I know that I can relate to, that care about me and I care about them. So I wouldn't down therapy, like if that works for you, but to me, that shit is like a complete waste of time and money. You know what I mean? Like, and the one thing about therapy is like people get hooked on the idea of like going to therapy. You know what I'm saying? It's like almost like something you'll always have to do. Therapy almost teach you how to cope with stuff, but it don't really like help you overcome stuff. You know what I mean? And yeah, man, there's a lot of minor details that I would share about the things like how people tried to relate to me. I don't want to be like insensitive and things like that. And again, this is I don't need clout. I wouldn't care about being insensitive, but the thing is like, you know, after going through some type of shit like that, like the last thing I would want somebody to do is like take what I'm saying the wrong way when I don't mean it that type of way. But yeah, man, some people would try to relate to me with like situations that they thought were similar, but it was more like disrespectful. You know what I mean? Because people don't really know what I went through to the extent that I went through. Like holding a full term baby, full head of hair. He looked just like his other brothers, you know what I mean? Until he was cold and turning purple like that. That's a whole different experience, bro. Like what you might think you can relate to, you probably can't, unless you went through that same thing. Just like I wouldn't try to relate to somebody that lost a child that, you know, they were older or they passed in like a traumatic type of way and were taken from us too soon. Like I wouldn't try to relate my experience to that, because like when you know your child and you know their personality and you raised them and they're on to like bigger and better things in their life, like I wouldn't be able to relate to that. My situation, I wouldn't try to relate to someone that went through that by saying that I went through something similar. But yeah, man, we all experience grief a different type of way. Definitely, you know, do what heals you, do what feels right. Open up your religious books. For me, it's the Bible. You know what I'm saying? Get closer with God. Do a lot of soul searching, a lot of praying. You know, just take time for yourself. That's all I can really say for anybody out there experiencing something similar. And I wouldn't downplay, you know, what anybody's going through, because, you know, especially even like what I went through, I know it's a lot harder on women, like on my wife, than it was on me, as far as like the physical aspect and the hormones and, you know, just like how we're wired by nature. All right, that was crazy. Damn, computer fucking software cut out on me. But yeah, like everybody's experience with grief is different. Like I said, I wouldn't try to compare my grief to somebody else's, especially when the circumstances aren't exactly similar. I know it's nice when people can relate to you, but yeah, man, that shit was not helpful. So just keep that in mind. And my condolences go out to anybody that's, you know, lost a child or dealing with anything even remotely similar. Definitely don't want to be insensitive. I know how hard that shit could be, like firsthand, for real. But listen, man, so the best part, it's crazy it cut me off for the best part of this, but I wanted to say, wanted to keep y'all informed, but I more importantly wanted to say that I'm back. I'm doing music. I got 2 albums on the way. I got You Can't Fuck With Me If You Wanted To, and I got a joint album with my man Sean P from the East, from Memphis. We got a joint called Red Grizzly coming. Albums are fire, bro. Like, I'm just happy to be back, you know, have a lot of this stuff in motion, working on my clothing. You know what I'm saying? Y'all can see I got the Blanco brand on right here, designed that logo myself. You know what I'm saying? I got the brands that I'm focusing on. I got the Mase Blanco brand. I got my wife's brand, Photo by Tia. You know, she's a professional photographer. So we're just pushing, man. We're just doing a lot of things. We like getting back on schedule, getting back on track. But I wanted to keep y'all informed, let y'all know it's a lot of good things coming. So be on the lookout for me, my music, my merch, my podcast. You know what I'm saying? Drink your water, read your Bible. And I see y'all on the other side, man. We out.